There have been a number of divestment movements from fossil fuels specifically at Princeton. I think there's been 5 or 6 already. So this is the most recent, and it's the biggest movement there's been. So I'm Hannah Reynolds. I'm a junior in the anthropology department at Princeton. I became involved with Divest Princeton over the summer. Almost a year I've been working with Divest Princeton, yeah. And basically it was formed with the idea that Princeton's endowment is invested in the fossil fuel industry, and Princeton also continues to, in its environmental and energy research, it engages with fossil fuel companies like ExxonMobil and BP. So what we're trying to do is get Princeton to end those relationships with fossil fuel companies that are egregious polluters, and its investments, divest from the fossil fuel industry.
What I can surmise is that Princeton really wants to maintain loyalty to its trustees and also to its major donors and to all of its stakeholders. So what we've seen in the last few years of the divestment movement, starting when President Eisgruber released a letter several years ago saying that Princeton would not divest from fossil fuels, is that Princeton really wants to maintain as much of a bystander relationship as it possibly can in order not to basically piss off any of its donors, any of its stakeholders, any former alums who now run oil companies. Princeton wants to make sure that they're happy and keep donating money. And so for a long time, Princeton tried to play the game like we're as neutral as possible. By doing nothing, we're doing nothing. By saying nothing, we're doing nothing. We're not picking a side either way. And Divest Princeton has basically said, if you're doing nothing, you're doing something, and you're affecting our planet by not making a decision.
So there's been so many schools recently that have divested. There's Columbia, Cornell, Brown, Oxford, Cambridge, recently the University of Michigan, and Rutgers, and so many different schools. And I think that's really showing how much this movement has grown. And it's been years that people have been calling for this at Princeton, and decades. And so I think that showing that Princeton's so resistant to this change and is going to be kind of behind on the times is not going to be great for its reputation. It's not going to be a leader on climate. It's not going to be a leader on research. And these companies use a lot of our research that is done at Princeton to kind of engage in corporate greenwashing and to really show that they're fighting the climate crisis. And that's not really true. You look at how much money of their total revenue that like ExxonMobil and BP are really putting towards, climate research and like sustainable alternatives to fossil fuels. And it's like a couple percent at most. It's just a lot of greenwashing and trying to sell themselves as, oh, we're doing research with Princeton. That's like such a great university. And so I think that's a big aspect, is Princeton's getting money from it. And maybe that's, good for Princeton, but that also means that these fossil fuel companies are directing our research. And while we could be looking at sustainable alternatives, we're looking at things that are still allowing fossil fuels to be used.
So previously, President Eisgruber said that Princeton would not divest, and now he says that it's not up to him. So we're seeing a slight movement in that people and trustees and also the president of our university don't want to be the ones themselves associated with not divesting. So there is movement, and there is progress in the movement, within the movement in the movement, and that has been exciting to see in the last few years, although it can never come quick enough.
The more they try to delay, the bigger stink we're going to make about it, and be like, hey, we've been waiting for years, and it's time for change.